Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to unmute you now.
Hello and welcome everybody to this very exciting healthcare panel for our second session. Students who are joining remotely, please make sure that you're on mute at all times unless you've been called on to answer a question. Students in the theater and remote students, we're going to have copious amounts of time for Q&A from you. We want to hear your questions for our extremely skilled and diverse panelists. So I'm going to start by telling you who I am. Students, you know who I am for the most part, but panelists, here I am. I'm Dr. Anna Miller. That doctor means PhD, not medical doctor. If you have an existential crisis on an airplane, I can talk to you about French existentialism. I teach in the upper school. I also do a little bit of middle school teaching in French. I'm upper school social justice programming coordinator, and I'm class of 22 junior class dean. I'd like to welcome our very distinguished panelists. We have Dr. Gerard Baltazar, class of 98. We have Dr. Giselle Johnson Booker, class of 99. We have Heidi Johnson Davis, class of 01. And we have Dr. Samir Yazdani, class of 09, who is finishing up work. So for this session, I'm going to ask the panel some open-ended questions to start off. Students, keep track of questions, okay? Write down ideas of things you might like to ask. I am going to leave lots of time for you all to ask questions directly to our panelists. So don't be shy. I know you're very smart and very interested in this field. So there's so many of you in the theater. I'm gonna ask your proctor, Miss Pizarro, to help identify who is gonna come up to the mic. And then if you're virtual remote, you can use the raise hand function to let us know that you would like to address a question to one or more of the panelists when we get to the Q&A half. Okay, so we're gonna start with the following. Could everybody please, panelists, could you please just take a couple of minutes and introduce yourself? What's your profession? What do you like most about it? Yeah, we'll start with that. Gerard, do you wanna, I guess maybe we'll go in Gerard, excuse me, Dr. Baltazar, Dr. Booker, Ms. Davis, and then Dr. Yazdani. Maybe we'll go in that order.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gerard Baltazar. Gerard is fine. I'm a trauma and surgical critical care specialist. I work at NYU Langone Health in New York City, and I like my job a lot. I love the fact that I get to step in when things are the worst days in people's lives, and that's a challenge as well. And I appreciate the challenge. It makes me step up and try to improve my game on a regular basis. There's no real way to kind of settle into a groove when you never know what's coming in the door or how intense the emotions or the situation are going to be when you're in the ICU. I'm looking forward to answering your questions. I don't want to take up too much more time with anybody else. So thank you.
Thank you, Gerard. Dr. Booker?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Giselle Booker. I am a clinical psychologist, so I work with children and adolescents, particularly about different kinds of things, ADHD, autism-related concerns, trauma. We've got all kinds of emotional concerns. I really enjoy my job as well, and like Gerard, actually, I also get to see people sometimes on their most difficult days, and we're not sure what kinds of emotions and things will come through the door. But I feel like that change and how it helps me, navigate my mind and bring out different things in myself as well as other people is really wonderful. I enjoy that I get to be creative with kids and play with toys and bring in a lot of other fun things to make therapy and talking to a psychologist a great place for children and adolescents.
Thank you, Dr. Booker. Ms. Davis?
Hello, everyone. I am Heidi, and I am a nurse. I've been a nurse for about 15 years and had a wide array of jobs in the profession of nursing. And what I like is the variety and the limitless opportunities within the field of nursing, which can be taken in a number of directions, from clinical to administrative to education. I started my career in pediatrics and worked as an ER nurse in the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and chipped away at a master's degree and headed over to Penn Medicine, where I've been for the last 9 years. And I really love it, love the variety, and love the chance to use a number of different skills and experiences beyond just the bedside.
Thank you so much, Heidi. And Dr. Yazdani?
Hi, I'm Samir. Samir's fine. I have to apologize. The day got a little out of hand, so I'm sitting in the middle of work as well, but I wanted to be on the call to talk to you guys. So I'm a general surgery intern right now on my way to radiology. So I'm currently in residency. So I'm finishing up 1 year at Lincoln Medical Center up just outside of Philadelphia. And then I'll be completing my radiology training up at North Shore Long Island Jewish Hospital in Manhasset, New York, where I hope to be specializing in interventional radiology. As a general surgery intern, you're rotating through a lot of different specialties and kind of just doing a lot of floor work and getting into the operating room whenever you can. Hence, that's where I just came from. And it's just a really exciting year. But I'm looking forward to kind of pursuing my career in interventional radiology, which is an up and coming field that's kind of a mix of everything. You know, you get to be in the operating room, but you also get to, be in a reading room looking at scans and things like that. So it's exciting. I'm excited to talk to you guys about being a resident, because I think a lot of times you hear this perspective of people who are attending physicians, and it's being a resident is definitely a unique perspective. So excited to be here.
Thank you so much. I should say I'm nodding my head vigorously because I'm married to a third-year resident in pediatrics. Okay, so first question for the panel, please. Could you share a little bit about Tower Hill experiences you had, maybe especially as a high schooler, but if it was before high school, that's fine, that you feel like might have helped prepare you for your field, prepare you for your profession? Anything come to mind? It doesn't matter the order.
Tower Hill is really challenging, and it forces you to try and always be the best. That's an important lesson to learn, especially if you're going to a field as competitive as radiology, a field as competitive as surgery, or any other field where the demands on being at your most precise and the most accurate is essential. And that's an important, you really all should thank yourselves for being at that, and then dealing with the challenges of being at Tower Hill, because it will make you better on the other end. And also the idea of multi-benefactor, that theme always lingered in my life for the last few decades. I've pursued a lot of different avenues in medicine, not all of them necessarily mainstream, but the idea that you can do anything really well and do many things really well, and as long as you put your heart and your soul into it, and you commit your mind to developing the best it can, you can still succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to echo that. I mean, for example, Tower Hill has just kind of taught me how to multitask, taught me how to really just kind of be able to handle anything that's kind of thrown at me. And for example, yesterday, 3 out of our 5 members of our team were out just because of various reasons. One's on vacation, and one's in, just a couple of different reasons. And one was here a little late the night before, and I had to cover 20 patients by myself on my service. But it really teaches you, how to multitask, how to time manage yourself, how to really prioritize things. And it sounds silly, but it's just something I find invaluable, obviously, in residency.
Yeah, I think also the ability to switch gears and kind of change channels quickly. I remember being, immersed in a photography class in what was the basement. And then, the bell rings and up you go to geometry, and then the day's over, and then you head into track practice. So just being able to switch gears and change channels on a dime and be fully present and engaged in whatever your mind and body might be doing at a given moment. I think that was really helpful. But also, I think tacking off of what Gerard was saying about, workload and just the intensity of demands that are put on you at Tower Hill, it's not in vain. It's not going to be wasted. That persistence and endurance really pays off in, higher education as well as in everyday work life.
Yeah, I think I would agree with all of those statements. And I think for me in particular, I actually found my passion for psychology my senior year at Tower Hill. There was a psychology class, which there hadn't been at any other point in time. And for me, I was like, wow, this is really amazing. This is something I want to learn more about. So, I'd done a lot of the other classes and it was great, but it wasn't the same as like finding your passion. So I love the idea at Tower Hill that you get to try a lot of different things and you might find something you hadn't expected and really, really enjoy it. I think the other thing about Tower Hill is just the value of always being prepared. So whether it's, an English class, whether it's being prepared for athletics, whatever the test, photography, like Heidi said, there's just such a variety. You're always kind of prepared and ready for the next thing. And that's a really good skill to have from now until forever.
There are also some really great people that teach over at Tower Hill or that help run the administration, and they can be very influential on your life. And if you do kind of lean into some relationships with them in a scholastic way, and also as a way to help build you as a young adult, those kind of lessons that will help you be a better person, help you be better working with other people, help you dig in deep to your own emotional intelligence, they're going to pay off in the end as well.
Yeah, I mean, something that has definitely come in, it sounds kind of crazy, but in medicine has come in really used to me is the fact that I took Spanish all the way from 7th grade through high school. It ended up turning into my major in college, all because of people like Senor Pardo and Senora Caimi, where I don't believe are there anymore. But it's really, you think about it, the fact that you're kind of forced to learn a language, quote unquote, starting in seventh grade, but it's something I've literally kept with me my entire life and something that's aided me with my patients a lot. It's just something that you really don't think about in high school until you're out in the real world and start using it.
Thank you all. Those were wonderful responses. If you could speak to your high school self about anything, academic or otherwise, what might you tell your high school self?
Everybody looks really, really serious. So I think I'm going to break it up and be like, girl, there are going to be some difficult days, right? It's going to be hard sometimes, right? I think especially when you're at a really great school, which is sometimes competitive, both academically and athletically and in all the clubs and activities that you do, it's going to be hard. And that you're going to have lots of different emotional experiences, but none of those really define you. None of those are going to break you. They're actually going to help you get better. They're going to help you be stronger and be really prepared for whatever is to come. The study skills that I really struggled to learn in like 5th grade. And I remember going home being frustrated because I couldn't get my binder right, have really helped me study through college and make it through my graduate experience, and now help me with my own kids and helping them learn how to study. So you're learning this resilience all the way along, and you have no idea how helpful that's really going to be for you.
I love that term resilience. I've been thinking about that one a lot for the last few years. And I would tell my my younger self to be resilient, to recognize that not all of this is as crucial as you make it out to be, as your mind tells you, as maybe the culture tells you, that you are good enough, and you're good enough because you're working hard. You're good enough because you are challenging yourself. You're good enough because you're asking questions. All those things make you good enough. And I definitely want the students to know that they are each good enough to do what they want to, as long as they're putting their passion into it and their heart and their soul and their mind.
Mm-hmm. I would say, while I understand the concept of life being short, I would tell my high school self that life is long. You've got a lot ahead of you, and everything that brought you to a given moment is valuable and meaningful. Like nothing is wasted in life, even the hard days, the really tough nights, none of that's wasted. And also to pay attention to the moments in your day, as busy as they are. I mean, I remember my days just being packed from the minute I woke up until the minute I collapsed in bed and fell asleep. Pay attention to the ones that give you joy. Which are the ones that you find yourself lingering in because you don't want it to end? Pay attention to those and find ways to kind of feed yourself in those moments, however brief they are. But no, life is long. Life is long. You got a lot ahead of you.
Yeah, I think I would echo that. I think obviously in high school there's a lot of things that you think are more important at the time than really end up in the long run being as important as they were to you in high school. But I think I would tell myself to just kind of realize what I have, like the people that I have around me, and realize the environment that you're in, and really just embrace it as much as you can, because there's not many experiences in your life that are going to be like your Tower Hill experience. There's not many, there's not many people and not many teachers you're going to meet in your life that are like your Tower Hill teachers and like your Tower Hill friends. And those who you are close to, stay close to for the rest of your life. I talked to a bunch of kids that I went to high school with still. My sister, who is a class of 01, is best friends with, I think, like 8 or 9 people were in her wedding.
Yeah.
And just realize the kind of environment that you guys are surrounded in. It can be tough at times. Your teachers can be tough on you, but your teachers are tough on you because they realize the potential that you have. And that's what I would probably say.
I agree.
Have fun. Have fun. Whatever you're doing, try to have fun with it. Don't take yourselves too seriously.
Absolutely, especially in sports. I'm not exactly playing college. I wasn't exactly playing college sports or anything like that. So enjoy it while it lasts.
Thank you all. Those are great answers. How would you define success in your profession? What does somebody have to do to be successful in your line of work?
I think, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
I think the definition changes over time. And I think that, what begins, how you begin your journey in your career, you may have one idea of what success looks like, but as you evolve as a person and your values change and your priorities change, maybe your relationship status changes, maybe you become a parent, maybe you uncovered one little avenue that you didn't even know existed, like what happened to me when I went to grad school. I remember thinking all nurses who went to grad school became nurse practitioners. Boom. And what do you do if you don't want to be a nurse practitioner? Didn't seem like there was an option for me. And then I learned, wait a minute, there are so many other options for graduate programs out there, not just clinical ones. And there's nothing wrong with clinical. Clinical is amazing. That just wasn't where I was kind of leaning. I kind of stumbled upon this and discovered a whole new world. But I think success changes. I think in the beginning, I felt like success was getting all of my documentation completed within 30 minutes at the end of my shift. Sure. And that was success as a brand new novice nurse. Later in life, it's how soon can I get home to my brand new baby? That's success. I want to get home in time for dinner every single night. And then it becomes getting another degree, getting a specialty certification to prove my expertise in a particular area of healthcare. So I think it changes. And right now, for me, success is work-life balance and finding still some variety. And right now I have 3 jobs in the world of nursing. I'm a parent educator. I teach night classes. I'm a nursing supervisor 2 weekends a month. And then I'm a phone triage nurse that allows me to work from home on my couch and be available for my kids as soon as they finish school. So to me, I am wildly successful, but that's because of my definition right now. I also know it's going to change and keep changing and keep changing. And I'm excited about that.
I agree. Authenticity is really key to success. When people think of surgeons, they think, oh, can they operate quickly and effectively? Can they sew this to that? I mean, when I was in residency, I had an attending who used to say, I could teach a monkey to suture and do surgery. And it's all the stuff around that actual technical skill that makes you a really good surgeon. And what I found over the years, that as Nurse Davis was alluding to, that as we change in our personal lives, as we change in our professional lives, what we define as success, all that stuff around the actual technical skill that we do and the knowledge that we impart, all that will really define success. And I think authenticity is being in the world of your profession exactly what you are on the inside as on the outside. And when you are able to then use your skill set, those technical skills, that knowledge base, to enact in the world what you feel inside and what you want to be, what the change you want to be in the world, not to be cheesy, but then you are successful.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for me, this is probably going to sound like a really lame answer, but
Oh no. Oh, sorry, you went on mute.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. I think this may sound lame, but you have to have a passion for medicine. You don't always have to be the smartest person
Oh, lost-
Oh, muted again.
I don't know what's happening. I'm sorry. You don't always have to be the smartest person. You don't always have to be the best person at anything that you do. But if you have a passion for this field, you're going to be one of the most successful people that you can possibly be in it. I mean, you have to always be striving to learn more and be someone who's excited about learning more, because medicine, they always have the adage in med school that the first day of med school, they like tell you what you learned today in 10 years is going to be completely wrong. Because we're always learning so much different about the world and about medicine and our bodies. And there's always new things being developed and new medicines that are treating different things. But as long as you have a passion for it, and as long as you remain interested and realize that this is exactly what you want to do, this is, you want to take care of people, you want to help people. That's all that matters, in my opinion. As long as you have a drive to just really help others and do as much as you can, then that you'll always be successful in the field.
I think for me, I think that, success, we're always working towards goals, right? So we're always moving towards trying to help improve mood. We're trying to help improve, patients' lives, right? And help their emotions feel better, their behaviors feel better. But I think success is kind of at the end of the day, when I look back over the clients that I've seen, the patients that I've seen, does somebody walk out of my office feeling better? And it might just be a little small incremental, like that kid smiled for 5 minutes and they haven't smiled at all in weeks. That's feeling really successful, right? I might go home exhausted. It might be really, really tiring, but that feels really great to know that that parent actually got to see their kid smile for a few minutes, or that they had a little bit better of a week at school. Maybe there was a few less fights at home. I think that feels really great. I think the other thing about success, as Heidi was talking about, kind of that work-life balance, I think it's more for me, it's like harmony, So am I making sure that I'm helping my patients with their self-care as much as I'm helping myself with my own self-care, right? If I forget about filling up my cup and taking care of myself, then I can't go out there and be helpful to my patients or my clients. And so making sure, I know you guys are really busy with school, but do you give yourself a chance to take a break? Do you get a little moment to hang out with friends or do something else? I feel like that has helped me be more successful. When my self-care is really good, then I'm a more successful therapist.
Mm-hmm. Thank you all so much. Such interesting answers. I have a few more questions, but I'm going to hold them for now. Are there any students who are champing at the bit?
Before those students,
Oh, Mr. Twyman, hello.
Yes, I'm
What we're going to do is we're going to have the
Welcome.
students line up. If you have a question, start lining up kind of in the VOM. Keep socially distanced, and we will go through there.
Okay, and Mr. Twyman, yes, thank you.
Yes, I
Hold on, Dr. Miller.
Okay.
I have to have you muted when I talk in the theater, because then we get feedback. So once I unmute, you'll hear them. Once they're done, I will mute them and then unmute you, and then we can continue.
Okay, Chris, but I'd like to let Mr.
Okay,
Twyman
first
address
question.
the group. Hi,
Sorry,
sorry.
can you hear me?
Yes, but can you hold for one moment?
So can you guys talk about your aha moment and how you knew you wanted to go into the profession you did? And then also, obviously you guys had a long journey to get where you are in your professions. Could you talk about how you overcame feelings of doubt or just hardship in your, all the schooling or stuff like that?
Thank you, Nina, for that question. That's my advisee. Yay. But I did want to thank the professionals here, Giselle, Gerard, who else do I see on here? Hi, Heidi, how are you?
Hey.
I wanted to thank you all for joining today. I'm hopping around each session, trying to drop in, but I did want to say personally, thank you all for meeting and sharing your knowledge, your personal and professional experience with our students. I think it's really important, and it's not often students that you get an opportunity to do so. Oh, Dr. Samir, I see you there as well. Hi. Again, thank you for taking the time to meet with them. This is a very popular session that we're in. That's why I believe it's in the theater. So again, I appreciate you sharing your knowledge. Students definitely take advantage of this. We also have the opportunity, hopefully, for if all professionals here join our Alumni Fire. That's a shameless plug. If you join Alumni Fire, it's a great way for us to connect you with the students as well as other alum. But it is a way to maybe be a mentor, share knowledge and experience. I think any opportunity students get to meet with professionals like yourselves is always so important. But thank you today for being here. And now I will allow you to go ahead and answer Nina's question.
which I believe was, in a nutshell, how do you get through the doubts that come up through the many, many years of schooling involved in reaching your profession?
The first part was about aha moment. I never had an aha moment. I don't think I think the feeling of wanting to help people and wanting to help people in dire straits permeated my entire life since I was a young kid. And that kind of evolved into a profession that is defined by those characteristics. I guess maybe there was a point where it made sense, but probably more in retrospect than in prospect. The idea of getting over feeling insecure about your profession, I'm not sure that the imposter syndrome ever really goes away. I think it's more learning how to deal with the imposter syndrome, because there's always a sense that there's more to accomplish, but that doesn't mean that it's negative, there's a negative to that. There's like, you haven't accomplished enough, but you have to just make sure you spin that for yourself internally into a positive motivation.
I did have an aha moment as far as wanting my profession. So it started off with this psychology class there at Tower Hill and realizing that I loved the psychology class that was being taught. Also through Tower Hill, there was volunteer work. So you had to do a certain number of volunteer hours to graduate. And I was volunteering with kids whose moms were in a shelter because of abuse. And so through that, I realized how much I really enjoyed working with them and playing with them. So for me, that was kind of the aha moment that I wanted to study psychology. But when I got to college, my university did a lot of research with like animals and particularly rats. And I was like, I am not interested in research. That's not the thing for me. I want to work with people. So I had to go and seek out other opportunities to do so. So continuing to find places to play with kids, to work with families, that kind of a thing. And realizing that there was psychology outside of just research psychology, and that I could be a doctorate of psychology, not necessarily of like the philosophy and research that is typical in psychology. And then I think to try to get through all of the schooling, I relied a lot of what I learned in Tower Hill, resilience. Yes, like physics class can be really, really hard, but you push through it, you figure it out, you ask friends for help, you study together, you commiserate together, and then you just find ways to help yourself make it through. So, good study skills, working with friends, leaning on your support groups, and just finding your way to make it through. I think in all of the fields, you're in graduate studies or medical studies, you have your cohort, your team of people that you become really close to and you can rely on to help you make it through the years of studying.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I don't think I agree with Gerard. I didn't really have an aha moment, mostly because both my parents are doctors and my sister's a doctor. So if I did become a doctor, I kind of would have been the black sheep of the family, I guess. But they never really pushed me into it. They never really forced me into anything. And because of that, just the exposure of being in their office every day after school when I could get there, and being around my sister while she was going through the field is really what made me want to do it. I mean, I see what my parents and my sister do every day, and how passionate they are. Again, going back to what I was saying earlier about what they do and how much they care about their patients. And so for me, that's what kind of drove me through all the years of school. It's just, you kind of remind yourself, no matter what, trust me, in residency and in med school and even in college, there were definitely days where it's a really tough lifestyle. Sometimes you're here late. Sometimes you don't get home you don't get home until a later hour than you would be expecting. But the fact that you're really helping people and making a difference, that's what did it for me. So
I was one of those weirdos that knew at age 4 that I wanted to be a nurse and never really strayed too far from that. So there was not much of an aha moment that I can recall. But I remember I also I was one of the first and only divers in Tower Hill's history. There hadn't been a springboard diver on the swim team since like the 50s or the 60s. And so I'm one who likes to take the road less traveled, and almost no one in my class was going into nursing. And I loved that. I think nursing is one of the best kept secrets in the circles that Tower Hill folks run in, because there are so many options for the direction that you can take it. And I knew I wanted to have a lot of balance in my life with, art and science, theater and photography and healthcare. So I wanted something that could give me a lot of options. And I've been able to become a published author, a speaker at conferences, a presenter of workshops and classes. I've worked on task forces with the executives in the hospital. So I wanted something that would open up opportunities as opposed to getting really, really, really good at one thing. And one is not better than the other, but I just knew I wanted lots of opportunity and options because I'm a equally oriented person, left brain, right brain. So I knew I wanted something that could kind of feel like balance as opposed to getting very much in a niche. And really almost no one in my class, I think one other person went into nursing, and I loved that. I thought that was super neat.
We have another question from the students in the theater.
Hello.
Hi, Jay.
I'm Jay Mehta, and basically my question would have to be, what undergrad classes did you take, and which ones do you think best prepared you for for your actual profession?
Good question. I think, depending on your major, there may be some limitation in terms of what you have to take. But I remember taking a psychology course, and props to Giselle for going into that field and really, really loving it and feeling like, wow, what I'm learning in this psychology class will be helpful to me in life. Regardless of what I do for a career, having a basic understanding of the way the mind works, how neuroses develop, healthier approaches to things, why we do and say what we do and say as humans, I thought was really wonderful. But then of course, for nursing, we had a lot of science specific classes that were really helpful. And there was one piece of the previous question that I forgot to answer that I just thought of with this one. And, I had to take bioorganic chemistry, for instance. And I remember thinking, oh, there's no way I'm ever going to use this. And yet in speaking with one of my professors, she found a way to reframe something as what to me seemed as dry as bioorganic chemistry as if you're having a conversation with a patient or their family member and they have a question about a medicine, you're going to want to be able to explain the rationale. For instance, why they can't eat with this or why they should avoid citrus with this medication, and understanding the way that it works chemically is going to come in handy. So that was a healthy reframe. Even if I was in a class that felt like it was miles away from what I actually wanted to do with my life, I found a way to say, but here's why it's important. And I would kind of come up with a scenario in my head for why I needed to know that content. And then it gave me a little bit of a kick in the pants and a little more excitement for what might otherwise be a really boring class.
There are two classes that stand out in my mind. One is, well, not classes necessarily, but research in a lab was one, doing pipetting for hours on end, doing DNA replication, and then also figure drawing in art class in college. Both of those really taught me a lot about life and science. And the research aspect, when you spend all those hours just taking tiny aliquots of fluid and moving them around and then getting a result and then adding that result to a whole myriad of other results to finally answer a very, very small question, but you know the right answer for that small question, really teaches you humility. It teaches you that everything in the textbook, it's important, and it took a lot of effort to get that information to the textbook and to get in there with confidence. So when you are that humbled by knowledge, you get a passion for wanting to keep on learning and always being being willing to accept that you don't know everything and you know very little, and trusting yourself to make decisions based on whatever information you have. And then figure drawing it really taught me how to appreciate the human body in a way that I carry on my practice today, not just with surgery, but I also do manual medicine as an aspect of my practice. And the respect that you have for the human body and how artful it is when you try and use the other part of your brain really gives you a sense of more humility in the face of healthcare.
Just to come back to this again, while being a bio major, I was originally a bio major, so I was taking all my normal biology classes and organic chemistry and all those kind of classes that you kind of have to take. But taking Spanish classes and being able to continue that on, I really can't tell you and like harp on how important that is right now in an aspect of my abilities as a physician, because a lot of times a lot of members on my team can't speak Spanish, and the Spanish population is ever growing. And so being able to speak a second language and being able to communicate with those members of the team, of those patients that come in, just makes them feel much more comfortable with the entire situation, which is just the little things that people don't really think about. So, if you're going into medicine and doing biology and things like that, you're going to have to take your normal courses. But I would try to pick up a language here or there, even if it's just basic things, because people will appreciate it much more than you realize.
For me, I took a lot of psychology courses. Obviously, I kind of knew what I wanted to do. And so I took a lot of classes that were related to it. But the really specific ones didn't come until graduate school. So in undergrad, it was a lot of more general psychology classes that gave you just a good foundation. I think the other piece of my degree that was really helpful, though, is that I also got a bachelor's degree in business. And so now being in a private practice, working on just managing books and finances, marketing, all of those things, having some pieces of that is really helping with the private practice and keeping us afloat in the business sense of the things separate from psychology. So there are some ways that you can have, obviously, your very traditional classes, things that you're going to need for what you're doing, but some really other interesting pieces of your undergraduate degree that can be helpful. I'm glad some days that I have a little bit of knowledge of that accounting practice or that marketing at this point in time. But again, more specialized things, I think, would you guys agree that came in graduate school? So a lot of undergraduate was pretty general, and then the more specialized came after that.
Mhm.
Hi, so I know that each of your professions are extremely demanding. So how do you cope with your emotions, like mentally, whether it's with patients or just work in general?
There are three specialties in medicine that have the most rate of burnout. That's emergency medicine, surgery, and intensive care. I do all three. So I have to be very aware of my mental health. I see Samir laughing. Yeah, it's true. It's really very challenging. It's very hard. You don't realize the amount of trauma that you're intersecting with and how it affects you if you're not actually practicing good self-care. So I have a therapist I see every week. Right, I'm acknowledging, yeah, and my wife and I also, for when we have difficulty in our relationship, we seek therapy or we seek counseling just from other folks, and also taking care of your physical health. Don't go crazy and do too much stress eating, even during the pandemic. Getting exercise when you can, and try to make that a regular part of your day. Spending time with the people you love and really absorbing that love, letting it really get internalized, so that you have something else there inside to counterbalance all the stressors and all those, and frankly, horrific things that you might see in medicine. You have to be able to have a balance within you of those things. And I would point out too that something that is very challenging to do, but I think it actually serves the public really well, is to be very emotionally centered, so that you can be present for your patients, be present for the people who are having a much worse time than you are, and be there as a sounding board, be there as a counselor if you need to be, and to share, really connect with them in this amount of pain that they're feeling. If you are not centered on your and secure in your own mental health and emotional health, then you can't really do that effectively. You can maybe become more of a technician rather than an actual healthcare provider. And so I really appreciate the question. I wouldn't have asked that kind of stuff at your age.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really, really good question. And it's something that I think I've grown in throughout my time in my profession. And I think remembering why you got into it in the first place, like recalling what drove you to choose this path in the first place, is really helpful. And for many, many people who choose careers in healthcare, it's to help people. And there's a way, there are so many different ways you can do that in healthcare, but remembering that what caused you to go into it in the first place is others, you know, helping others. And where I see sometimes colleagues struggle with self-care and with burnout and with stress management is when they make most situations about themselves, either proving themselves, about their ego. And instead, I feel like if we can keep our focus at work about the other, it actually ends up benefiting us as well, because then we seek authentic connection with coworkers, with family members of patients, with patients themselves, with the people who empty the trash, you know, remembering that we're there for others, and seeking an authentic connection where we can be helpful and provide healing in whatever way we can. Although that is directed at the other, it ends up giving us an indirect benefit as well. And so I think staying humble and in some ways getting out of the way, you know, if someone's really, really angry, recognizing it may not actually be personal, that this patient is really angry. Maybe they're limited in how much control they have, how many decisions they can make, how much time they have on this earth. Recognizing that that's where a lot of the heat is coming from, instead of taking it personally. If I get my ego out of the way, I can really be present with another human and promote healing, even if there's no cure. And I think we can do that in micro moments all throughout our career. And that's the kind of stuff that keeps you going.
I think very similar to kind of both of those things. I think in the self-care regard, for me, it's exercise. I love to exercise. I've always done it. I was an athlete at Tower Hill. And I think that having that in the afternoon, breaking up between the long school day and then getting home to do homework, I didn't realize how helpful it was, right? So it helped me stay emotionally grounded. It helped me get focused to go back and do homework after having had a long day. And so just having that piece is kind of, usually for me, it's in the morning so that I'm centered, I'm filled up, I'm ready to go before I go to see whatever is going to come to visit me during that day. Like Gerard said, you're just not sure what people are going to bring to you, right? So they can be having a really difficult day. And as Heidi spoke about, if you're not ready to get out of your own way and their way, you can't really be helpful. So finding things that bring you joy, that bring you a chance to feel fulfilled and, you know, filled up, ready to go during your day can be great. So whether it's athletics and exercise, whether it's you enjoy playing your piano in the morning or listening to music and having a dance party, it can look different from everybody. But I think that's really a lot of how do we deal with the burnout is some of that self-care. I think the other thing about burnout is if you recognize you're feeling it, maybe looking at a different avenue within your profession, you know, do you need to be doing something different? There's lots of different types of medicine. There's lots of different types of nursing and psychology as well. For me, I've recognized burnout recently when I was doing a lot of report writing, because that report writing would come home and it would take over my family life as well as, you know, my actual work life. And I was like, this is not what I want to do anymore. So I switched to doing more just the individual piece where I could do a lot less at-home work, a lot less paperwork. So there might be something in your career that you can tweak a little bit as well that can help reduce some of that burnout.
Mm-hmm. I believe we have one last question from the theater, and then time permitting, we'll have one more question from anybody who is here as a remote.
Hi, I was wondering how your cultural background and your family affected your passion for becoming a doctor and taking care of people.
I mean, I guess I kind of touched on that earlier in the fact that, you know, I got lucky in that both my parents are physicians and again, my sister is. So, you know, there's always that classic people think like I got forced into it. But because my parents, you know, I've got a great support system and that, you know, to touch on the last question, even that's why, you know, that's what keeps me going every day is leaning on that support system. So I think luckily from my background, my parents are very loving and very supporting and very just kind of had my back along the way. And because of that, and because of the people around me, I got very exposed to medicine. I experienced a lot of different fields. There was a good portion of time where I thought I was going to go into orthopedic surgery until I worked with a family friend who was in IR. And so coming from that kind of background, just I think I'm lucky in that it really helped boost my passion and boost my career forward.
I think for me, culturally, we have a big stigma in the African-American community about mental health, right? It happens a lot in a lot of different cultures, but in particular for African Americans, about not wanting to seek care. We can handle this on our own. We don't need to talk to anybody. And so wanting to be a face that other people could talk to, someone who looks like them and maybe has experienced some of the same things. In particular for kids, I think sometimes I've had a lot of people come in and say, this anybody, they're really rough, they've had a rough life, they're really angry and aggressive. But then they come in and see somebody who looks like them and they say, wow, like, oh, this is a little bit disarming. I can talk to somebody because this person looks like me. They might understand a little bit more. So I think that was one thing that helped push me into this profession. I don't think my parents had a strong direction either way of which way I would have gone professionally. But I think they were always supportive. I think they're always wanting me to just do my best, which is something they helped by starting me being at Tower Hill. But then I think culturally now I see how important it is to continue with what I'm doing. So that way there are people of various varieties that when clients come in the door, they have somebody who does look like them, who might have had that same experience, who at least can disarm them a little bit and they can feel a little bit more comfortable.
I'd like to just speak to anyone in the crowd who maybe didn't have the best home life, who might have challenges at home, whose culture, their family's culture might not be as supportive or ideal, and maybe they did push you a little bit, and they maybe push you hard. I think it's important to know that it does get better, and professionally, you can take those difficulties, those cultural challenges that you may have faced and may be facing at the moment, and take them and use them for good. And you can use them to make other people's lives better, to make your life better on the other side. And that's one of the things I learned at Tower Hill, is that there's this culturally at Tower Hill, there's this sense that we're all very smart, we're very accomplished, and therefore must be well adjusted as well. And that's not necessarily the case. And I think it's to the heart of the question. Culture does bring a lot to how you decide to live your life. And it's not that the culture defines how you live your life. It's how you take all those tools that you were given, for better or for worse, and then take those into a profession where you can do good with it.
Yeah, my family culture may have played a role. My mother, while she taught at Tower Hill in science and was a volleyball coach and was the admissions director, she was a physician assistant before she worked at Tower Hill. And so she did have a background in medicine. And I think that may have contributed to some of my interests. But my father, actually, when he knew that I wanted to be a nurse my whole life, but when I was in the plays, I was in some of the dramatic productions that were put on at Tower Hill. I found a love for theater and thought, maybe I should go into theater and acting instead. And my father's culture was not tolerant of that whatsoever. He said, you won't get a dime of tuition support if you do anything besides nursing. Well, there you go. So did that impact my career? Yeah, I think it did. But I'm able to recognize now he was coming from a good place. He wanted me to have a career with health insurance, with stability, and I'm thankful for that. I have all of those things now, and I'm able to find outlets beyond my work hours to kind of express myself in the other ways. I got into stand-up comedy right before the pandemic. I've done some improv groups on the nights that I don't have my kids. So I have found a way to kind of express that piece of me, but more as a side dish and not as a main course. And at the time, I felt like my father was being horrifically abusive to me, to limit me in such a way, but I do recognize it was coming from a very good place. And I think it's played out well because I've taken that, and then now as a grown-up, I've been able to stretch my legs in the ways that feel right to me. So it fortunately did all work out. Mm-hmm.
I'm in awe of the honesty and detail that our panelists have shared with us today. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up here. Remote students, if you had questions you wanted to ask, please email me and I'll see if I can pass them along. Thank you so much. What a pleasure it's been to get to hear your perspectives, to hear about the ways that your time at Tower Hill has turned you into the people you are today. And I just want to thank you again for the honesty that you were so candid. It was really disarming in a wonderful way. Thank you to all the students who asked questions in the theater. Thank you to all who joined remotely. Everybody who is a student at Tower Hill, go check your email right now. We went over because this was so fantastic. I didn't want it to stop. Check your email right now. You have a survey that Mr. Silva sent out. It's only going to take 5 minutes, but you need to do it now. It's in your inbox. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.